Hello and welcome to YHTV's Trinity of Life. This is episode 77. I'm Christina Suzuma, your host for this program. Thank you so much for joining me as I continue to explore the wonderful world of healing arts, meditation, therapies, and the many modalities of helping each of us find balance in our individual journeys. We're always excited to meet those who are on the leading edge of creating change on this planet. I just want to take a moment and mention that because of all your support, one of our shows, Magical Medical Tour, has been nominated to be the top health and fitness podcast of 2013. And we would like to invite you to take a moment to vote. There's 2 days left, actually 3 days left. Voting actually closes on November 15th. And so you're able to vote once a day as we come up close to the 15th here of November. Just go to our site, yogahub.tv, and you can see all the information there on how to vote. And again, we want to thank you for all your support and taking us to this point. Today, we are going to be speaking with Dr. Poonam Chowdhury, who has also joined us before on Magical Medical Tour on episode 73, where she shared her wonderful expertise with us on the work that she does at the university and at the hospital emergency that she works in. But today on Trinity of Life, she's going to inspire us with her gift to the global communities on how she has helped them and how we may be able to possibly partake in these ventures. Now, at any time during this live presentation, you can feel free to ask a question or make a comment simply by scrolling down in your screen and typing it into the comment box. Or if you prefer, we welcome you to dial into our conference line at 323-476-3997. The ID is 607393#. And if you've missed that and it went by too fast, not to worry. It will show up on the screen during this presentation. Now, some of us go through life knowing what we're meant to do. It is, almost like a calling or an internal compass that drives us forward. Some people call it passion, some call it destiny, but whatever it might be. Today, Dr. Poonam Chowdhury is going to share with us her experiences of healing communities in need throughout the world. It gives me great honor and pleasure to welcome my friend and this wonderful, magnificent spirit of the world, Dr. Poonam Chowdhury. Hello, Poonam.
Hello, Christina. How are you? Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, we're always blessed when you can spend some time with us in your busy schedule. So, Poonam, can you share with our community a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. I am Indian American. I grew up. I was born in the States, but I'm Indian in origin. My parents are from India. I spent some time over there while I was growing up, and then high school on, or junior high on, I should say, I've spent in the U.S. So I've sort of had a chance to travel a bit. And then I grew up here. I did become a physician, as you've mentioned, and enjoying life.
Yes, like you have a beautiful spirit about you that everything you do, you just seem to love. Poonam, now through knowing you and through our conversations, you've shared with me that you were raised in more the Indian tradition and the spirituality of that tradition. Now, this is Yoga Hub and Trinity of Life. So, our audience is quite familiar, or some of our audience is very familiar with that, and some of our audience aren't. Can you elaborate a little bit about that for us?
Sure. So I grew up, I would say I'm not very religious, but I am spiritual. I am Hindu. If, it's a philosophy, it's not so much a religion, but it's for me the core of who I am as far as that's what was introduced to me from when I was little, and that's how I've been raised. Um, all of it was introduced to me from my dad. So it came from a parent and parents, I should say, but my dad was the center figure in the family. And my mom and dad definitely put it in my head when I was young that, um, the time you spend with yourself and God is very important. And it can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be a temple or a church or anything specific. And so they got me down to meditating, and from when I was very little, even probably before I understood what meditation was, my dad just kept telling me to sit down and just close my eyes and just sit and just, and I would ask my dad, what am I supposed to think about? But it's, and I grew up in a surrounding where I it's become a part of my daily life. So as far as being Indian, I think that's the most Indian part of me. um I mean, other than the fact that I know the language and the culture, but I think it's a culture that's been dated so far back. And and as I grew up, my dad introduced yoga to me, and I do it like I do it every night before I go to bed, and it's just one of those things that have become so part of my life that it's shaped me, and it shaped everything I do.
Mm. And through your work, working in the emergency department in a hospital, that must really help to ground you.
Calm me down. Hopefully. I mean, I have my moments. I'm not always calm, but it definitely in the ER, I think people come in distress and not knowing, and asking for answers, and not, physicians don't have all the answers. Oftentimes we don't. And I think just interacting with people, mm, it's been it's one of those things that lets me relate to people. The once you know yourself a little bit better, you relate to people better, and I think it calms you down. And in times of heartache and sadness, it makes you feel connected. Actually, it makes you feel connected all the time to people, but it also helps people feel comfortable with you. As far as that's my opinion of it, of course. But it's definitely helped in the ER. I think it's amazing. I mean, I think I'm lucky to have had a chance to meet as many people as I have, and interact with people. But it doesn't matter what race, religion, color anyone is. It's the same when you're talking about the core of human beings. So it makes you relate to people very easily when that side of you, the spirituality side of you, is open, I think.
And through your meditation, like you say, before you go to bed every night, you practice a little yoga. Is that the meditative part? Is that the pranayam? Or is it the physical form of the yoga?
The physical form of the yoga, I do meditate at night and in the morning before I go to sleep, and right before I get out of bed. It's one of those things that centers me, has become part of me. I can't imagine it being anything different. So, and I've been doing it for years. So it grounds me and lets me start the day saying that everything is um, in the name of whatever is higher than me. So it's a chance to give thanks and be grateful, and put things in perspective.
Now, did you go through a stage in your life, like through the teenage years, where you didn't do anything like that, and you just kind of went out in the world and experimented with all the different things, and then actually brought you back to your spirituality?
I think I was 10, or I don't know, 9, 10 years old, where I was always a little inclined towards this direction. It was one of those things that my dad and I have a very good bond about this, and we talk about it a lot. Um, in my teenage years, I think that's the one thing I kind of stuck to. I wasn't ever super religious. I wasn't, but it's one of those things that really made me feel centered and gave me a chance to spend time with myself and also just develop me. And I don't know, for whatever reason or the other in my life, I've always needed that time. And it's, whatever hardship or, you go through school, you go through different phases when you're growing up, this is hard, that is hard, relationships are hard. It's always been something that has been healing and helpful. So I've always come back to it. If I missed it, if I didn't meditate for a couple of days, something always brought me back to it. So I always give thanks to something higher than me to always bring me back to it. So the answer is yes, but I don't think I was gone from it for years at any point. I just think something always brought me back to it.
Now, did the spirituality, do you feel, have anything to do with you becoming a healer?
I think it's such a tough question because, it was so long ago that I decided about, maybe not even decided, maybe something inspired me, but it's one of those things that came hand in hand. So I've never thought of it as two different things, and yet they are two different things, right? So, but I think meditation and spirituality is in any profession you can go into. I mean, that is just self-discipline. So it comes up in any form. So, I don't think it matters what you're doing, but for me, medicine was one of those professions. How could you ever find a better profession? That's how I looked at it. It was, you give every day, you give of yourself in such a way that, how could you ask for anything better? So I always looked at it a profession of respect and honor. And so and yes, today it is absolutely my spirituality and such. They are hand in hand, both together. So I'm sure it had something to do with it.
So it's so fascinating that you and your sister are both doctors. Mm-hmm. You're the only two children in the family, and you both ended up being doctors, and you were both, no doubt, raised with the same foundation through your father. Sit down, close your eyes, take a moment, right? And growing up with your sister, did you ever discuss it to say, this is how you feel and this is how she felt, and these are the similarities that you both, like the road was so similar?
My sister and I are similar in a lot of ways, and we're very different in certain ways. And you've met my sister, so you probably have an idea. We're very close. But, when we went through our childhood, there were moments where we were so different from each other. And you like fight, and you go through your phases. We're 3 years apart, so but as we've grown older, we've slowly our direction has just fallen onto the same pathway. She is my best friend. She's a very big part of me, and she has, in our house, she has this room that is the meditation room, and you've got, it's beautiful, and it's got, it's like a little temple, and it's gorgeous, and it's got the fountain, and you can go and meditate at any time you want. It is there for anyone who wants to go in there. So some way, shape, or form, it's all kind of come back to the same thing. But we don't do anything exactly the same, but it's just somehow, and yeah, it's true. We were raised in the same household. My mom prays, my dad meditates. They do different things, but we're all, the core of it is the same.
How beautiful. Now, so here you've gone through school and you get set into wonderful positions. Now, did you ever when did you ever decide that you wanted to take your medicine to different parts of the world?
I think I always wanted to,
Mm.
but I don't think the opportunity was very. It was hard because you go through med school, and before med school, you're always gearing up to go to med school, and it's a lot of work, and you're always busy, and you're always doing something, and then you get into med school, and you have this crazy schedule. You go through residency, and you start working, and you're always busy, and so you want to, but you don't know how and when. And I always say, the universe brings you what you need when it wants, and you kind of have to open yourself to it. And a lot of times, I just say it out loud and say, this is what I would like to do, but I don't know. And so a friend of mine started going overseas with a group of nursing students. And so she introduced me to it, and I started going in the last 3 years. So I've been overseas in the context of medical trips to Honduras, Panama, and this last year I went to Ghana. And they've just been fascinating. There've been, times where you reflect and times when you learn a different culture, time to give, but unbelievable experiences that have definitely touched me, and made me realize that it is in fact something that is very much what I want to do, and make a part of my life.
So when you go to these countries, as part of an organization, can you tell us what it is that you as a group actually do in each of
Sure.
these countries?
So usually there's a contact that's already set up. So these organizations, and there's so many of them out there, that they usually have somebody from the organization that's already there. They've set up they usually survey the area that they want to go to. Usually they're rural places in country. So we're not talking about Buatan in Honduras. We're talking about rural Honduras, where people traveled 4 or 5 hours with their little kids walking, and we would go up a mountain, and it was crazy. We would take buses and big vehicles across like these little rivers and like up the mountain. And our travel was usually like 1 to 2 hours a day to get to where they would set up these clinics. And so they're makeshift clinics, basically take a building, and basically we would set up shop. We took a whole bunch of antibiotics, pain medications, um, asthma medications, you name it. I mean, there was, we basically, the students took up donations during the course of the year, then had pharmacists, then basically bought the meds.
Oh,
And we
wow. So it's
took
not
them.
even donated by the pharmaceuticals?
Some of it was donated, but most of it they raised. They actually
Wow.
raised, like they do actual charitable things over the course of the year, and they raise the money, buy all these meds, and then we go down there with all this meds. So you need like special permission and all such. And so then you go, and we have like, little things like we can open up abscesses and stuff. We have little procedures that we can do. We have IV kits and such if people need fluids. But so, and a lot of times we would have OBGYN go as well, and dental. So
Mm.
we'll and open up dental clinics and such. And so people would come, and so they would spread the word for 3 or 4 days. Now, of the 3 or 4 days, we're going to be there, and so people would come from wherever. Um, and so anything and everything could walk in through the door. There was usually one vehicle there or two vehicles there if somebody needed to be transported to the emergency room. But people are super resilient in these countries, So, um, and a lot of times, that people have chronic issues, things that are very I mean, all you can give them is maybe Tylenol and say, okay, pain meds, this is what we have, this is all we've got. And they're so grateful for just simple things. It's just amazing how little um, people have in some of these countries, but it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing how far people will come and how nice and how pleasant. And they share a lot. They talk about their children. They talk about their lives. Women talk about what they do, what they hope to do, what they hope would change. Um, it's and then it gives us a chance to learn about the culture, and you get to learn about the food, which I love food. And it's and a lot of times you're in makeshift housing.
Mhm.
So you come back to where we're housed, and there's no hot water. Sometimes there's no water, and it's one of those experiences where you learn that the comforts that we have here is a lot. The U.S. has a lot of comforts, which a lot of the rest of the world doesn't have, and so it definitely for those 2 week periods, makes you step back and say, "Wow," and then you come back and you're rejuvenated and you feel like you just got a jump start.
Mm. Mm. So now we had a question that came in. What is the organization or organizations that you were affiliated with or are affiliated with?
We went through Global Brigades, the last three that we went, and I believe that, and it's San Diego State students that are going. So now they're going with another organization, but there's tons of them, and I know that a lot of schools have organizations already that they go with.
Hmm.
So it's just a matter of inquiring, and and just because I'm a physician, I'm. It's not just that physicians can go. I had business students go with us and had an amazing time. And so we'd show them how to check blood pressures, and they'd do all the blood pressures, and it was a chance to, one of the things that happened was one of the nurses who went with us, he was also a masseuse. And so what he did, a lot of these countries, people work in farms and they really, I mean, they're always having aches and pains. And so what he ended up doing, and he thought it was very helpful, was he brought his masseuse, he actually brought his table. And so he just set up shop, and people who were really having difficulties, he was the masseuse. And I was like, wow, that was just, and so there's a lot of different ways to give, is what I'm saying. And we have pharmacists who go as well. So it's one of those things that, anybody who really wishes to go should.
And now through these works, do you see the same sort of situation wherever it is you go? Like it is the same, basically rural area, makeshift housing that you stay in for 2 whole weeks. And the organization, I'm assuming, supplies you the food and everything. And it's like hours and hours of just helping one individual after the other.
Right. Usually what we would have is we get there, we get a day to kind of, with jet lag and time changes, we kind of have a chance to kind of settle, and then people go through the meds, and you allot, the students actually, what they do is they make bags of the meds, little bags, and you allot how much goes into what. You usually give out 2 week supply. In any case, so, and then you start going to the actual clinics, and the clinic days are, you start at 7 in the morning, and you're going until 5, 6, depending on how many people show up, and you stay until it's safe. You stay until it's safe, because most of the times you want to come back to the camp by dark. And you also you want to serve the last person. You want to make sure you're getting everyone.
Oh, so where they set up what we would call like a base camp?
And so it depends on each place. Like in Honduras, it was an unmarked area. They didn't want people to know where we were, and they had like a military guy there with an AK gun like in his hands, because they were like very protective over us, just because of all the
Hmm.
overseas stuff that happens. So but in Panama it was a little bit less rigorous, but their makeshift housing had something had happened to it, so we ended up staying in a, an area a priest gave us. So it had a little church, and then there were housing around it, and so we ended up using it. So things happen. You end up kind of going into whatever situation that comes your way. In Ghana, we ended up staying in a little compound area. Ghana was a little more populated where we were staying. As far as what was around us, it was more of a city, but we would travel to the rural villages.
Mm.
And the good part is you get to sometimes go to orphanages during one of the days to interact with the kids, play soccer, and then other places we ended up going doing house visits. So we talked to the families and what what their lives were like, what they would like to see change. So it gives you a real chance to interact with people.
So this is not just setting up one base camp, one clinic, and that's where you're staying for 2 weeks. You're actually traveling throughout parts of the country or that area to be able to reach out to other people.
Right. And, usually these organizations are usually taking people back every 3 or 4 months. So it might not be your school, it might be another school that's coming in. So they keep reaching out to different populations in these countries. So it's just, and I know I have friends who's gone through their church. And so there's very different organizations, and you just have to kind of get a feel for what's comfortable for you. I think what was helpful for me was that I went with a friend. I went with a friend I knew. And, especially as a female, you were going into a country that sometimes, doesn't have, you're not sure what's going on. But going in a big group, I think, is important, and going with at least the first one with a friend, so that you just know what you're getting into.
Someone who's done it before, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's how she got me to go. So, and I'm very grateful for that. So, yeah, it's and I hope that I get to go to India at some point, just to be able to go back to the roots.
And help help the people over there. I'm sure you could organize that.
Yeah. Yep.
So what happens when you go to this country and everyone and you have these 2 week supply of antibiotics or whatever it might be? What happens at the end of that supply if you know that that individual needs more help?
Well, usually what they'll do is they'll have a follow up of some sort. There's usually a local clinic or nurse or doctor that's there that comes every, I don't know, once a week or once in 10 days. So they come and check back with that doctor. Um, I'm going to be honest, some of it is spotty. It's difficult to say, usually, if something's that dire, we'll tell them, you need to travel to the hospital that's closest to you, which might be 5 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to get this treated. We can just temporize the situation with some antibiotics. But otherwise, we'll just say, come to the local clinic and check things out. The hard part is that the local clinics are staffed spotted. It is a very spotty thing. And so, and that's part of the thing that you have to relinquish unfortunately, when you go over to overseas, because sometimes the follow up is very difficult to do. I saw a woman in Panama, and she came to me and she said she had a breast mass. And I said, okay, so I'm seeing her, and she's got this fungating mass on her
Oh,
right breast, and it's been there for a while. I mean, and I'm just looking at her and I'm thinking she's got breast cancer. And I told her, you need to go to the nearest hospital as soon as you can get there, and you need to get a mammogram. I'm trying to explain everything, and she's understanding, and she told me she was going to go. Now, there are those people from these organizations that actually stay there. They stay for a year or so, and they're supposed to follow up on these referrals. And so I don't know the end story, and some of the times I have inquired, what happened with so and so, and sometimes I get an answer, and sometimes I don't. So it depends on whether they follow up and what
mhm.
happens. So you can only do so much, but and a lot of it is cultural, um, breast cancer, cancer. I mean, these sort of things are very cultural, and people handle it in different ways. So you kind of have to stay within the boundaries of the culture. So you have to go there, and you just don't infiltrate the area. You kind of stay within their boundaries of their cultures as well. So I read up a little bit. The organization usually is pretty good about telling you about what to do, what to not do. Ghana had there were certain colors you don't wear,
Mm,
certain colors you do. So it was, you learn a lot,
mm.
but it's a different world, and you learn a lot. I mean, no question. So
How can you see others, like for example, someone like myself, if I wanted to support one of these organizations or go over to help? I mean, what is the best thing to do? I mean, I have no doctor background. I have nothing like that of the sort. I mean, can we go? Can we help? Or can we support someone like you on these ventures?
um, sure. And I think a lot of times, my friends will be like, "Oh, I'm going overseas. If you guys want to donate, a lot of times, I pay for my way over there.
Mm,
Um, I pay, whatever sum that supports my travel and my food and lodging, and it's my way of kind of donating. Um, but I think each person, I say Google, just Google it and say what trip, medical trips, and there are water brigades that go. There are people who go, law firms that go. It's kind of interesting. So the answer is yes, anybody can go. The other thing I tell people, sometimes people can't travel, and it's not possible. You have children and such. The UN has, you just go online, and the UN, you can volunteer online.
mm,
And this is something I do. You just type in, I can't remember the exact, but basically, if you go online, UN volunteer, it has a site, and you make a little, you log in, you make a little login for yourself, and you basically say, you write down what your specialty is or what you would like to help with. And I usually say medicine, or you could do English language. If you're bilingual, you can say, I know two languages. What's their job? And you can teach classes online to children overseas. I did in Uganda. There was a group of, I don't know, 5 or 6 of us who made books for teachers and children about HIV and healthcare, common things, fevers, colds, what to do,
mm.
sanitation, and it was an amazing project. And I got to work with all these great people, and I wrote sections of it and did PowerPoint presentations, and it was something that the teachers could use, and it was a children's book as well. So I think there's just a lot of opportunities out there. It's just, you just have to kind of just go online and just look.
Mhm.
Certain organizations work for certain people, others don't. You just kind of have to go through and ask around. It's interesting how many people have gone on these trips. Just ask, keep asking in your social gatherings who's gone, and if you can go with them. I think that's the easiest way, because it's kind of daunting to to just say, oh, I like that trip and I'm just going to go and I don't know anyone. So I think the first one, it's always helpful to go with someone who's done it before.
Yeah, I kind of have to go with you on that
I was a little nervous, but it really helped that my friend had gone to Honduras and had gone with the same group before. So she was like, "Oh, I had a really good time. This is what it." And she could realistically tell me, she's like, "Look, there's no hot water, and the water's a little sketchy, but they give you food, and this is what happens." And I was prepared. I think she was very adventurous and did it, went the first time on her own. And but the opportunity is there. You don't have to be in medicine to do it. I think it's a way that we can connect with the world.
Absolutely. I think it's just brilliant. Brilliant the way groups of people will move forward to do that, which brings us to this event that has happened over in the Philippines recently.
Yeah.
That level of devastation.
It's hard to watch, and disaster areas, to be completely honest, I do think you have to have training to go in and help. And even then, I think it's even then, to face disaster zones, even when you're in the medical profession, it's a totally different thing. But it's, my heart goes out to those people, and I just, you can only pray and hope that they get, that there's some relief and we can bring enough relief. But it's just one of those things. It's just even hard to watch.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quite amazing. The little bit of the news that I actually am able to consume, the pictures, the devastation, the numbers, the rising numbers of casualties, and the homeless, 600,000 at this point. The numbers, it's so hard to even fathom those numbers.
That's the thing. You can't, it's hard as a human being to understand the numbers, because it's just, your mind, it's hard, to actually, it is just the grief and the sadness in so many parts of the world. But I mean, it's just hard to watch the news at this point to just even see what's going on. But donating in these situations always helps. I think, you worry about clean water and food and people even getting food. And you worry about children. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things that, they need a lot of help from around the world.
Absolutely. So as a physician, as you said, what you just mentioned was there is a whole nother type of training to enter these zones.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that the Red Cross offers like disaster, training and such. I mean, for me, if I went into, I wouldn't feel comfortable just going in and helping, because to be completely honest, these places have, their environment has a different set of disease that is most predominant in the time of disaster they have. Certain things are more prevalent. You have to be educated. Otherwise, what ends up happening is you yourself can get into a position where you're in danger rather than helping. You're not another number. But so reading up and actually getting involved is very important, but doing it in the right way is important as well.
Poonam, after traveling through your travels, what kind of changes would you like to see in the future? If you,
right.
I don't want to say if you had a
magic wand.
I was going to say,
yeah. And this was something I was thinking about yesterday. It's interesting how far we've come when it comes to the electronic media and internet and everything's, something happens in India, it's uploaded within seconds on Facebook or, whatever social media. But you look at how many people are dying each day from, I don't mean from natural disasters, because unfortunately, those are certain things that sometimes aren't preventable,
Mhm.
but things like a war and civil war and people killing each other, children, you see pictures of children dying like in masses.
Mhm.
It's impossible to bear almost. It's kind of like, or school shootings.
Ugh.
Just things that, we talk about meditation, we talk about yoga, we talk about all these things, and the ultimate thing is that you're at peace inside and feeling the feeling your place in this world. And I it's so hard to watch that in mass. There's so many things that are happening, that is, there's so much unrest in
Mhm.
some ways, and we've come so far, yet we've lagged so behind in the humanistic part of um, ourselves, I
Mhm.
think. And so I would love to see that, we, as in the human race, can calm down, put our egos aside, and can be able to agree, or agree to disagree, but be civil in that disagreement in the world, and be able to not just, you know in wars, the wars need to stop. It's just one of
Mhm.
those things that just isn't getting us anywhere, and it just seems like we're just seeing mass casualties, people dying, people's lives getting destroyed, and it's only making the people who are left from these mass situations angry, bitter, and causing more hate. And it's just kind of one of those things that is just catapulting into a situation where, it just shouldn't be this way at this point, because we are all able to communicate so much better, because we can reach each other so much better. We can pick up the phone and call each other, rather than, mailing each other letters, or social media, and we are supposed to be more patient, right? We're supposed to be learning about other cultures. We're so much more involved in other cultures, and we see people from different cultures, and we invite people from other cultures into our homes. But yet, in the mass scale, there's still so much going on, that it would be I would be really happy to see in my lifetime that people in general and the world has, it's just calmed down. The wars and the civil wars especially, and just, neighbors fighting neighbors. It's just one of those things that we talk about being patient, but we just aren't. We aren't.
No, living in Los Angeles, just driving through the traffic here,
Right.
that gives you an idea already.
Right. Right. Just for 5 seconds, just say, you know what, okay, it's okay if I don't get here 2 minutes before, or if I don't get my coffee, within this much time. It's just one of those things where we just kind of chill.
Well, I mean, there is two parts to all this, a social networking and things are moving faster.
Oh, very much so.
It's not the days where we can um, leave our home, do our errands,
Mm.
come home to our answering machine to see who's called.
Right.
You,
Exactly.
now it's like the phone or whatever device vibrates. Oh, someone's trying to get hold of me.
Right.
Oh,
That's
here's my
right.
message. And it's a whole different pace.
Mm.
And so much so that it's almost like ramping up people's energy to a level where yes, the meditation or the breath or the stillness that they need to reach, it's that balance,
Mm. Mm.
on that scale of introducing that other side to say,
Sure.
just shut everything down just for 5 minutes.
Maybe that's what it takes, just to start out with saying, at 9 p.m., everything shuts off. I shut off everything, and it's just my time to spend with, okay, my significant other, or just to go and take my space, maybe some space with, if you are a musician, this is the time I spend. It's just one of those things. Different people have different ways of meditating, and it's just what works, but I don't know what the answer is as far as, the grand scheme of things, but it's hard to watch. I was it's been hard for me to watch the news lately. I was telling my fiance about it, and I was like, I it's very difficult because it just gets you so it's like so dire and
Hmm.
upsetting, and it takes you a while to even get yourself back into
Hmm.
your own life and get you doing what you want to do because it's so crazy, and
Hmm.
um so I think, yes, I agree. I think, you get a text message and you feel like, oh, this person said this, and you have to immediately answer it. And sometimes if you just took two steps back and thought about it, you probably wouldn't be sending that text message back. And so um sometimes, taking a little bit of a breather and stepping away is very important. But I think, in if we do it individually, maybe as countries and as nations, we do it. But I just wish that, I feel like it hasn't changed. We haven't changed as people. I mean, history shows us war after war has not gotten us anywhere, and yet it's still happening. And somebody's threatening somebody that if you don't do this, and it's just one of those things. It's like, we're not going to get anywhere by doing this
Yeah.
over and over again. It's just history repeating itself over the same issues.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Well, if they
that's what
just
I'm
stop trying to alter the history our children are learning.
correct,
Oh, they
right?
don't need to learn that anymore. It's like, pardon me?
Yeah,
Do you really
exactly.
want this to repeat itself? You know?
And sometimes it's not even presented or even acknowledged, and sometimes the children aren't learning
Hmm.
certain things that have happened in history. But I think that I definitely see a lot of Americans come to me and they'll talk to me about yoga, and it's one of those things that I've seen that has flourished here
Hmm.
um, relatively recently. And I think it's amazing how the Western world has sort of, grasped it and has, let it open, take, come into their lives in a very positive way. So it's very nice to see. And it's in other countries too. There's so much poverty in other countries. Sometimes when you don't know where your next meal is going to come from,
Mm.
or when you're going to, what are you going to feed your children. These are not the thoughts you're having. You're just trying to survive.
Hmm.
um Hopefully, you know people will, in my lifetime, I would like to see there being a little bit more less poverty in the world. I mean, as innocent as it is to say that, it's one of those statements that people make, but um it's true.
Hmm.
It's true, because we are very blessed in this country, and it would be nice to see other people have some of the stuff we get to enjoy every day.
Mm. I very much agree with you. Punam, is there a moment during these travels that you can remember that you feel has really made you shift in your own life?
I think there's been so many, to be completely honest. I think even in the United States, as I've been practicing, I've come across so many people and so many things that have happened, little things that I reflect on later on, and it has changed me. Um, things, as far as, because we're talking about overseas trips, I've had in Ghana, there was a little girl who said, I was asking all the kids what they wanted to be when they grew up. Um,
Mm.
and because most of these children, the girls were getting pregnant when they're as teenagers, and then they were part of the family, and they didn't really work. They were, I mean, they were mothers, and they took care of their families, but they didn't get to, go and have a career. And this girl said to me, I want to be a doctor like you are. And, I
Mm.
thought, wow, and for a moment I was like, wow, I'm so proud. It just kind of gives you the little oomph. But there was a little kid who also said, I want to be president of the country. And I was like, would you let me back in? That's what I asked. He was like, yes, and I'm like, are you going to remember me? And he was like, yeah. But, these kids have so many dreams and aspirations, and sometimes you just look at them and you think, if you only had a little bit of what we are given, free education, an opportunity, what they would be capable of doing. And so I think the kids definitely change who you are, because they're so, they innocently tell you what they feel. There's and so I think the children have been a big thing for me, because it's been an amazing adventure to meet little kids from different communities. And the other time I had a really good time was I played soccer with a couple of the kids in the orphanages in Honduras, and it was just fun. It was a lot of fun, and they just get so into the game, and everything else is forgotten. Doesn't matter where they live, doesn't matter what you do, who you are playing the game, and that is all that matters. And it takes you out of your life for a moment and takes them out of theirs, and it's an amazing place to be.
Beautiful. Yes, children have a magical way of touching our hearts, their purity.
Yep.
Right. It's lovely. Well, Poonam, thank you so much for honoring us today. It's been truly a pleasure to learn about this whole other side of your travels and your life that you just share and continue to gift communities. I mean, you really gift yourself every day. It's not just overseas, but here in San Diego and wherever you go. It's really lovely to know you. We're very honored by you, and we hope that we can support what it is that you're doing continuously.
Thank you so much for having me on, and it was an honor.
Thank you, Poonam. Again, we are speaking with Dr. Poonam Chowdhury and having her share her travels with us. And we would like to thank Segovia Smith and the Yoga Hub team for making this all possible, and to each and every one of you for joining us in this new platform of education and information. And we are always grateful for your continuous support and look forward to hearing your feedback on how we can serve you better. We invite you to join us live on Tuesdays for Magical Medical Tour at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, Wednesdays for Trinity of Life at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, followed every other week with Flowing into Awareness with Anna Tara. May I remind you to help us with our nomination for the 2013 Podcast Awards this year. Please visit our site at yogahub.tv, and from that point you will have all the instructions on how to vote. There's 3 more days left, and hopefully our Magical Medical Tour will gain more and more recognition for what it is Dr. Glenn Woolman and I continue to do and forge forward. And also, we invite you to come to our site. And actually, right now, you're able to subscribe for daily podcasts, basically, or the weekly podcast. You'll be notified through your email when the new podcasts are up. So go to our site and click away. Again, we're also grateful for any feedback or suggestions that you might have. Give us a call at 818-LETS-TALK. 818-LETS-TALK. Until next time, namaste. YHTV's Magical Medical Tour. Come join Dr. Glenn Woolman and Christina Suzama as they journey through the healthcare galaxy, interviewing doctors, healthcare practitioners in the attempt to share ways to achieve optimal health. Join us on yogahub.tv every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern.
That it's your family and your doctors and your caretakers and friends and the people around you that see the positive happening and are there to nurture that. It's not, if you have to go it alone, it's going to take you out. We just don't have the individual strength, I don't believe, to handle some of the dark side. You need the whole group to go to the dark side with you and help you come back.